Hello, BUSN 1360 Software Apps for Business. Welcome to Module 2, our Excel Capstone assignment. This is that two-part assignment that includes the grader as well as a quiz. In this case, when you complete the grader, you're going to transform data into information with charts that can be quickly read and sparklines that give you immediate information, and you can use that then to answer questions in the quiz. So I think you'll enjoy this assignment. Remember that this is a badge enabled assignment, so if you score a 90% or above on that grader, then you are going to, I think you might even have to score it on both parts. Then Pearson sends you a digital badge, and a digital badge is a picture, and you only get this picture. It's like a certified picture, and you only get it if you make this score, and you can display it on any social media as a way of letting future employers or your friends know that, hey, you did really well on this assignment. You have a mastery of Excel. So it's kind of a cool thing. And the point of this video is to support you in getting the best score possible. Even though you have that pass-fail window for earning points on this assignment, I hope you'll delve into the learning and get that 100%, what I like to say, the hard way, right? But that's deep learning. Of course, you can repeat these assignments in accordance with the syllabus to get the best score possible, and I encourage you to look at the feedback that my IT Lab immediately provides. You do this assignment at 2 o'clock in the morning, your instructor is fast asleep, but you can still get that feedback by going into my IT Lab, finding out what you've been marked wrong on, fixing that, uploading again. So let's go for that 100% if we can, okay? Oops, let me go to the, oh, where's my little, yeah, there's my 100% guy. He's cool, he's relaxed, he's going into this assignment, he's going to get his 100%. Now, when you get that 100%, that's our goal, 100%. Pearson also displays, and I think they only display this one time, it's a brief display, to tell you, congratulations, you've earned the badge, and for more information about the badge, that you can click on this link, internet URL, and it will take you to the website. I'm going to briefly show you that just to open it up, but before we do, I want to point out that this is, I've gone through, I've done this assignment. I did earn the 100%, but what I wanted to share with you was this. I didn't do it in one attempt. I'm not a perfect person. Maybe you are. Maybe you're that great perfect person. You do everything right the first time. But I do have to look at things, and I would think you might have to as well. And let's do that, because that's how we deepen the learning. Now, with this grader, what I find is this grader, the instructions are about 2.5 pages, and it's easy to read an instruction incorrectly, or simply to think that they meant something that it was not the case. So sometimes you have to make those corrections. That's true on the quiz as well. And I make the same mistakes, which is why I give you that opportunity to repeat the quiz. So I hope you will do that. But when you come into this assignment, your first task is going to be to complete the grader. This part will be grayed out, this Excel quiz, until you make your submission for the grader, and then you'll have the opportunity to complete the quiz. Don't forget that. Don't do just one part. You've got to do both, all right? I mentioned that I wanted to show you the website. The website that you'll go to is called Your Acclaim. I think that Pearson also emails you that digital badge. I'm not 100% sure, but this was a great quote from this website. After getting certified and adding the badge to my LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is a very popular professional social media site. It's for putting your resume and things like that. It says 2 CEOs from local companies got in touch with me to work with them on a project. So that was this particular person. I don't know what the badge was that they earned. I will tell you that Excel is a sought-after skill. It's very useful in the business world. So check that out, youracclaim.com, and get that Pearson badge. Now, as I worked through the assignment, and you saw that I did score 100%, Okay, took me 11 uploads and download, fix one little thing, upload again, try this, upload again. I found 2 mistakes and I wanted to share those with you. I did report these to the publisher. So when I report them to the publisher, that means the publisher might correct these errors. So be aware that it might be necessary to follow the original instructions. The first error that I found was step number 3. And the step actually states on this particular worksheet, select this range, wrap the text, apply center align, and apply blue accent 5 lighter 60% fill color. Well, when I did that, I received a host of errors saying the cell was not formatted correctly. But after a lot of experimentation, what I found is that it would accept blue accent 5 lighter 40%. So when I go through the steps, I'm going to make that change. But if the publisher does correct that, I'll try to let you know. But you can try 60%. If you get the error, then you can go to 40%. Okay. The next error I found, and this was the only other error that I found, was on step number 9. And it states that, again, on this same worksheet, we select a range, we create a clustered bar chart, and we apply the monochromatic palette 12 chart color. It's interesting that that's a blue palette color. And when you submit it, the grader actually says to you, hey, you were supposed to use monochromatic palette 16 rather than 12. So we're going to use 16 again if Pearson corrects this problem, because I did report the problem, and if they correct it, then you may want to start out using 12, but understand that if it gives you an error, just change it to 16. Okay, so these are some errors. Now, I will say that, the grader can be picky, and I have experienced problems where I was playing, and even though I thought I undid all the changes when I was playing, I think there were some things in there that the My IT Lab program was still picking up. So I would encourage you just to be very focused as you go through this grader, and just, we're going to walk through these tasks together one by one. We're going to do it. So I say we're going to get through this. We're going to learn. We're going to learn. All right, so I am already logged into My IT Lab. This is my practice student, Betty Baker, who I log in as, and I've already completed both steps of the grader. So yay, my 100%. And, I'm just going to do it again. Why not? Because we're going to learn, we're going to practice, we're going to go through it. I have taken the liberty to download those files. I've got them nicely organized in an Excel Capstone folder, and I've already opened up the instructions. And when I switch over, there's a lot of them, but that's okay. We just do them one at a time. So, we're just going to go through about 2.5 pages there. We're going to work through those. And I also, of course, we have our spreadsheet, and let me open that. And always remember to enable editing, and notice down at the bottom that it's starting on the Cities tab. Okay, it's starting on the Cities tab. They're going to ask us to change to this DC tab. The one thing that they did not include is a picture of the finished product. I thought that you might want to see what the finished product looked like, and so I have that open. This is one that I've already completed. This is the first tab, the DC tab. I want you to get a feel for this blue. And again, these are the cells right here that I ended up using the cell, the 40%, and see how the text is black on a light blue background. That was the one that it accepted instead of this 60%. Now again, this is subject to change because I did report the problem to Pearson. Just some things that you can notice are the difference in the colors of this title up here compared to this. You might want to notice the graph and just the coloring of it. It might give you some comfort as you're applying some of the directions, the sparklines and the red dots, the red markers. The next tab is places, and this is a lot of data, and you're sorting and filtering and formatting. It's great to me, the amount of information that you can get simply by some conditional formatting that they're going to have us apply. Here I can see at the top, notice how this one has a funnel and the others don't. This one has been filtered, and that means that some of the rows are hidden, not deleted but hidden. Notice that they're in blue, and I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it skips to 6, because we'll see that when we filter this, that one of those rows did not meet our criteria, and so it's hidden. You can see some other 16 to 18, so there's another row that was filtered out. It's nicely sorted, and sorts are a great way to get information. We can sort this data in a lot of different ways, and we should not be afraid to do that. In this case, it's sorted, you might notice, by city, and then within the city it's also sorted by sightseeing location. Maybe we want to see it that way, but we could sort it by fee. We could sort it from, longest tour to shortest tour. We could sort it simply by the location, have a nice alphabetical listing. Great way. I mean, the simple sort, great way to get information. Last tab, cities, and we have all kinds of information in here. Some when are they going to depart, when are they going to return, how much does, perhaps this is our small business, perhaps we run a sightseeing business and we're going to take people around, and we say, this is what we charge, or this is your per diem, you get $125 a night base, your total lodging, whatever it happens to be. We have a list of cities perhaps that we conduct tours in. Those cities have different rates. So notice here, like Boston, they have as a 3 city, and 3, there's a 125% rate, and we'll see that and how we're going to use that. And we have this nice spreadsheet down here that tells us what the airfare is going to be. If I'm going to fly to that city and give a tour, or this is what we'll charge, whatever, use your imagination, but put this in context is my point. Don't just rush through the steps. Understand. We want to gain understanding. If you have to take the shuttle, if you need a rental car, what's the total rental car, what's my average cost per trip? Well, I've calculated it right there. What's the lowest? I want the cheapest trip you've got. Well, that would be, looks like San Antonio. Okay. What's the most expensive? The highest one. Well, it looks like that's going to be Washington, D.C. And what you may notice as I'm clicking around on this worksheet is you click on the number, but have you been looking at the formula? That's what the Excel pros, the power users, do. The power users might be clicking here, but they are gaining understanding by looking at the formula bar. If I was clicking, shuttle, I see that there's a lot going on there, and we're just going to walk through all of this, and it's going to be okay. But that's what the end product looked like, and I wanted to show you that before we get started. Not going to save that, going to jump right in. So let's go over to our instructions, and of course we've already downloaded the file. It's put our name on it, and they're starting us off on this DC sheet, which is the worksheet. There are multiple worksheets in a workbook, and the first thing they tell us is simply to check the spelling and grammar. So if I go over to Excel, they did tell me to go to the DC worksheet, and the first thing I want to emphasize is to start in cell A1. Excel tends to, when it reviews, it starts at the top and it goes further down. Then when it gets to the bottom, it has to loop back up to the top. To make sure it does that it loops back, it's better just to begin at the very top in cell A1. When I think about which ribbon, which tab up here to select, well, let's think. We don't have to memorize. It makes sense. Don't you, when you review, somebody says, would you review my resume? Would you review my work for me? And that's where we're going to find that we check for spelling and grammar mistakes. So up here on review, here's my spell check. Right away it says, looks like you've spelled memorial incorrectly. Okay, I want to change that. And it says, looks like you spelled visitors when it should be visitors. Need to change that. It's gone through. That's all the errors. Okay. Now that was step one, and you know my policy. Whenever I do something that's good, save that work. In that way, if I mess up, I just exit without saving. But so far so good, so let's go back to our instructions. Now here we're already at the step that I cautioned you about, where it says lighter 60%, but we know that it needs to be 40 right now. So it says select cells A4 through G4, wrap the text, apply center alignment, and then apply blue, accent 5, lighter 60, 40, whatever fill color. Okay, let's go over, and it says A4 through G4, so all my titles. Now, most of my base operations, the basic things I need to do, are on the Home tab, so go back. And this is cell style. And the instructions are telling us 60%, but because there's an error in the grader, I'm going to select the 40. Now, what else did they tell us to do? They told us, I have my printed copy of the instruction that I'm referencing, and it said that we need to wrap text. And if you watch like year complete, which doesn't quite fit, see how it's there now? It does look a little funny because see how this is to the left and these are to the right and that's to the left. And so they told us to center align. And we've already applied the fill color. So I think we've completed that step. I'm going to save. I'm going to go back to my instructions. If this is too fast, pause the video, go back, watch it again. Still on the same worksheet, it tells me that I'm going to merge and center the title across A1 through G1. So let's go there, A1 through G1, merge and center. So there's my title. The next part of that instruction was to apply blue accent 5 cell style. Blue, so that's this plain one. And so it is a different color. Don't let that throw you. And then the last part of that instruction was to bold. Excellent. Save. Oops, my computer's thinking. Save. So we did all that. We selected, we merged and centered, double check because I skip steps sometimes and I'm only human, so sometimes I overlook things. So you want to double check yourself. Still on the same worksheet, we want to change the width of column A to 34. The key here is to get your mouse out of the worksheet and put it on top of the column. See how the shape of the mouse changed? I've got that downward pointing arrow. That tells me I'm in the right location. I'm on top of the column. I'm going to right click, column width. And it's currently at 20. They want it to be 34. That was an easy step. Save. I like those. But we're going to challenge ourselves. We're going further. Still on the DC worksheet, we're going to select this range of cells, C5 through F10, and we're going to insert sparklines in this range of cells. Okay, let's look at it. So what's going on here? Well, it looks like I have several different great tourist locations. The Lincoln Memorial, World War II Memorial, Vietnam Veterans Memorial, Korean War Veterans Memorial. This is Washington, D.C. Memorial, and it's the visitors that are coming here. And it looks like that this is the year that the memorial was completed. And then for each year, here's the number of visitors that I have. So I can look across to the Lincoln Memorial, and I can try to really look at this data. For example, my eyeballs tell me that it's gone from, what is that, 3 million to 4 million to 6 million to 7, almost 8 million. So as I look at each individual number, I can see that it's going up. But it takes a lot of work to look at every single one of these for that trend. I mean, here they're all in the 4 million, so I have to look a little more closely. And presumably, this looks like every 5 years I'm tracking the number of visitors. So as I start to get a lot of data, it might grow increasingly difficult to use my eyes to try to identify the trends in this. So that is where Sparklines are fantastic. And that's why they're telling us in step 6 to select, they said C5, so this is our visitors, C5 through F10. Where's the Sparklines? I like to think of it as a graph, but or a chart. Instead of it being in these charts, it's got its own special category. They instructed us simply to use a line. When I click that button, it says, okay, here's the data that I'm going to use. Where would you like me to put it? And I can leave this dialog box open and simply use my mouse to select the area where I want to put it. Now, do you notice the difference in the notation? Those dollar signs indicate what? This range could move because it's relative to my selection. But I always absolutely want my Sparklines always to be absolutely relative to that range in this location, right? So those dollar signs mean absolute references. They're absolute locations. Click OK. Voila! There are my Sparklines. Now I can kind of see that they're going up. They also, these are in the 2000s, these are in 3 going all the way up to almost 8, and it looks like they're all going up. But let's go a little further and see what it asks us to do. It says select those Sparklines, right, G5 through G10, and display the high point Sparkline marker, and then change the color to dark red. So the high point marker means we want to identify the highest peak in each one of these, because like this one, World War II Memorial, is that a flat line or does it go up? Right, and we can look at the data, but we want Excel to really make that obvious to us. So we're going to start off, we're still on Sparkline Designs. We're going to click High Point, and notice the dot. We're going to change that dot or that marker. We're going to change that marker, the high point marker, and we're going to make sure it's dark. It looks like it's already dark red, but let's make sure. So I'm going to change it. And as I hover over that color, it confirms that that is dark red. Excellent. Looks like I've done something correct. I'm going to save. Let's go back to the instructions. We're on step number 8. On the DC worksheet, select the range. Again, we're selecting those Sparklines, and we're going to apply same for all Sparklines for both the vertical axis and the minimum and maximum values. So what we're doing, pushing back from the tree to look at the forest, is this first Sparkline in this little cell is graphing a range from 3 million to nearly 8 million. Compare that with this one down here that is simply spanning from 2 million to a little over 3. But all these lines, how do you tell proportionally which one is a more dramatic increase? That, this one really should look a little more dramatic. And so the way that we do that is we go over to, we're still at Sparklines Design, into this button here, Axis, and they want us to say that the vertical minimum value is same for all, and the vertical maximum value same for all. Did you see that shift? And see how they're a little more, the distribution is a little flatter because you've got, this one, it's really from 2 to 8. So all these axes are a little more proportional now because we chose same for all. Save that. Let's see, did we complete all those steps? Let's double check. Okay, it looks good. Step 8 we did apply for all, so now we're on step 9. Still on the DC worksheet, we're going to select A4 through A10 and C4 through F10. And what jumps out to me is that it's asking us to select two ranges at the same time, this and that, and that they're not connected. So how do we select two groupings of cells that are not side by side? What key do we hold down on the keyboard? Give you a minute to remember that. The reason that we're selecting that is because we're going to create this clustered bar chart. Now, then we're going to start formatting with that monochromatic palette, and remember that I mentioned even though this instruction says 12, the grader will mark it wrong and it currently tells you instead to use 16. Again, the error has been reported, and so let's, if it marks it wrong, then you know what the problem is. Okay, so if they fix it, just be on the lookout for that. And I said that that's going to be yeah, 16. Just wanted to make 100% sure. Oops. Okay, so let's just start with this graph. A4 through A10, C4 through F10 create a clustered bar chart. Let's go to Excel. A4 through A10. Which key is it? Control. Hold your Control key down and you're going to select from C4 through C10. If you make a mistake, simply click someplace else and come back and select it again. What you don't want to do when you have that Control key held down is to click the same cell more than once. If you do that, you can select the same cell an unlimited number of times, and Excel will be very confused by that. So if you mess up and you didn't select it exactly as you see here, then click away onto some other cell so that nothing is selected and simply begin again. Select A4 through A10, hold the Control key down, keep the Control key held down while you select C4 through F10. Okay. We are going to create a chart, so I know that that's under Insert. We need to insert a chart. It said that it wanted a clustered bar. Is that right? Where am I? Yeah, clustered bar. And so this, I'm in this realm. Well, this says columns. Down here is where we're getting to bars. If I hover over this first one, clustered bar, and I'm going to click it. Voila, there's my graph or my chart. Now we know it doesn't look like the end product that I showed you with the blues and all that, so we know we have more work to do. We're going to apply the monochromatic palette, and again I'm going to do palette 16. Now my chart, my graph chart here is selected. Notice the dots along the outside. What you do not want to see is any dots inside, because that means that you've selected something beyond the chart. Okay, so you just want those dots around the outside. Make sure it's selected, and then Chart Tools, Design. And from Design, change colors. Now here's my monochromatic. And we know it's blue, right? And so as I look at these blues, I'll show you the confusion. This is the one the instructions call for, monochromatic 12. But what my experience has been is that color 16 is the one that is graded correctly. So I selected monochromatic 16, and look at my beautiful bars. They look wonderful. I like that, so I'm going to click on Save, but I'm not done yet. The rest of my instructions say to apply the gradient fill to the chart area. And it continues to say, do not change the default gradient options. So I just need to fill in the whole chart area with whatever the default gradient fill is. So I still have my chart selected, and I need to format the chart properties, and many ways to do that. Under format, you do just want to make sure that you have the chart area selected. Maybe I'll click on format selection, and now I have these options, and fill is under my paint bucket, and I've got a little triangle there, and when I expand that, I click the little triangle and I see gradient fill. Let's try that one. Click there. And because I'm in this monochromatic blue palette, it's looking blue. It's already got that filled in. So it said don't mess with it. So I'm not going to mess with it. Looks good to me. I didn't save though. Did you save? Let's save. And then let's continue. On to step 10. Cut the chart and paste it into cell A13. Well, let's just do that. The chart is already selected. I'm going to go back to home where I know my scissors are, and I'm going to cut, and I'm going to click in cell A13, and I'm going to paste. And I'm all the way up here on the button. Notice this button has two parts. We're going to be exploring that. I'm on the top part of the button. That looks good. Save that. But I'm not done yet. We were down here. Change the chart height to 6 and the width to 7. And then we have some alt text that we need to type in. This is where it's nice if you do have it printed so that you can simply read it. But I'm going to change the chart height and width, 6 and 7. Still have the chart selected. I am formatting the chart, and I'm going to format it so that the height is 6, enter, and was that right? 6, width is, yeah, height is 6, width is 7. So I'm going to type 7 there, hit enter. Hey, that's starting to look like the picture that we saw of the final product that I showed you, because you're watching the video, and that gives you a little leg up, and that's wonderful. Now, we need to add that alternate text, which is what will display if the image cannot display or if a screen reader is reading this. And where do we find that? Well, we tend to find it under this shape. The chart is selected, and this shape, if I click on that, has options including alternate text. And in the description, they asked me to type, the bar chart shows the number of visitors to each memorial for the years 2002, 2007, 2012, and 2017. So that looks good. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back to my instructions. Make sure we did that. That's a 6-pointer. We want to make sure we did all that. And so far, so good. And we're almost already, folks, at the bottom of page 1. So here we are on step 11, and it says change the chart title to annual visitors. And then we're going to apply a blue accent 5, 25% darker font color to the chart title and also to those category axes, the, vertical and horizontal axes, and we have some other steps to do, but I like to break it down, do just one piece at a time. So let's change the chart title. I'm going to click chart title. See how I now have dots? I have dots around the outside because the chart is selected, and I also have dots around chart title. So I'm just going to start typing, and it's going to end up here in this formula bar, and they said annual visitors. Got to make sure I spell it correctly, and I'm going to hit the enter key. Now we need to format that, and whenever I format my fonts, I just go back to the Home tab, and here's my... Now, see how the letter A, which is my font formatting, has a red bar underneath it? If I were to click on the letter A, it would change this to red. But of course I want to click on that little arrow next to it, and I need, what do I need? I need blue, accent 5, 25% darker. And if you see where that is, I'm in the blue column, 1, 2, 3, about fourth one down, and I'm going to select that. Now my annual visitors is in that font, but the blue bar under A, it's changed. It is that color. That means I don't have to keep looking for it. As I now move to select, this is the axis category. If I'm not sure about that, I'm just going to click on like Thomas Jefferson. Do you see the dots? Do you see how it did not select just that text? It selected everything. If you click too many times, you might end up selecting something that you shouldn't. What do? You click away someplace and you start the selecting process again. We all make mistakes. Just click away to deselect and make sure that your dots are lined up just, where everything is selected. Now, since I already identified my font, I just click flat on the letter A. See how it picked up that exact same color? Now when I move down to this other axis, and again I'm selected, see how the dots go all the way around? And I don't have dots anywhere else except on the very outside. And again, just click the letter A. And it's that exact font color that we previously chose. It remembers to make it easier for us. I'm going to save that. And let's get our next piece of instruction. We changed the chart title. We applied the blue coloring. We applied that to the chart title and also to the category axes. Now they want us to change that value axis to millions. And you may remember doing that in one of your grader assignments. See how cluttered that is? Very hard to understand. It looks like the zeros all run together, so we don't like that. This is selected, this axis, and consequently my format panel is open. If not, I could open it by simply saying Format Selection. And among my different tools here, I'm trying to work on my graph, and I'm going to click on that little picture of the graph. And I think it's under Axis Options. And as I scroll down, this looks right, Display Units. If you don't do it all the time, you might have to look a little bit until it comes back to you. Millions. Oh, that looks so much cleaner, so much easier to read. Wonderful. I like that. Save that. Back to instructions. Add primary minor vertical grid lines. What are we talking about? Primary minor vertical grid lines. Well, let's look. Let's push back from the tree. Let's look at the forest. When I look at this graph, look at there are lines. Do you see these vertical lines? They seem to be occurring at each major number, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million. But our data doesn't always cut off, exactly at a 4 million. So I need help trying to understand exactly if I were printing this. Notice that Excel does a great job as I hover over it. It tells me. But if I were printing this, to put in a nice report that I, gave to somebody, I wouldn't have this level of interactivity. So I need some more of these vertical lines that are in between these major lines to help me read. Is this 6? What is this? 6 1/4? Or 6, help me with some more vertical lines. Whenever I need to add something to the graph, the easiest way is probably going to be with this plus sign. They wanted grid lines, and I see that's already checked, and it's checked because I have major grid lines. But there's more choices. Let's see, I've got major vertical, and these are minor vertical. So I want minor vertical. And even as I was hovering over that, did you see the extra lines that come in? Now it's a little easier they're shaded differently so that I can distinguish between the majors and the minors. That just helps me. Looks like that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So every 5. So it's kind of chunked a million into what 200,000 visitor chunks. Okay. When you have all this, the way to close it is to click the plus sign again. I'm going to save this. Go back to my instructions. Okay, did we do it? We changed to millions. We added primary vertical. Excellent! We're on to page 2. Step number 12, more precisely. Add data labels to the outside end of the 2017 data series. And then we're going to format that, apply number format with 1 decimal place to that data label. Okay, data labels to the outside end of the 2017 data series only. Well, let's go back to Excel. And it looks like I have multiple data series, 17, 12, 07, 02, right? 2017. Well, how do I know which is which? Well, I can look at the colors. And I will tell you, folks, that it did occur to me that some of you may be colorblind, and this would be a very difficult graph to read if you struggle with blues. So one thing I want you to know is that when you hover your mouse over the data set, Excel interactively tells you this is the 2017 series. See that? See how here, 2012, and it tells me the value? And so on. Well, they asked me to select the 2017 data series. So I'm going to click one time on just this bar because it's big. Now look at the dots. Do you see why I emphasize the dots? I have dots on each and every one of the 2017 data bars. If you by accident double-clicked, then you would probably only have dots on the one bar that you double-clicked. So clicking inside of a graph is a very precise, very delicate process. If you messed up and you have only one data bar selected, click outside of the graph, click simply on some cell. By doing so, you deselect everything. Then you're going to click your graph, your chart, and then you would click that data series just one time because you need those dots to be around each of the 2017 data bars. Now, update my printed copy. Let me turn to page 2. And it said we need some data labels, and when we're going to add something to the chart, we're going to go to the plus, and because of what we have selected, it's trying to give us some help here, and it said data labels, and our instructions were outside end. And before I've even selected it, look at my chart. Do you see the numbers? That's what we're looking for. So we've added that. And remember, in order to get rid of that, I need to click the plus sign again. Now, they wanted me to format those data labels, that's the next part of the instruction, to have 1 decimal place. So now, instead of selecting all these 2017 bars, I want to click one of those numbers. Maybe I'll click this one. Do you see how all of them are selected? Again, if you accidentally double-clicked, you're going to have to start your clicking over. So click out to a cell, click your chart, click the number. You need each one of those to be highlighted. Now, I'm looking through here. This seems to be all about alignment, but remember, you have multiple categories. I'm working with the graph, so I need to go to the graph. And this is starting to look promising. Label. These were data labels. This is label options. And as I scroll down, the very bottom, number, and I'm click that triangle to expand. Once I expand, now I need to scroll down further. It says, how am I supposed to format this? Right now it's in a general format. I need number. As soon as I select number, it goes to a default, which is 2 decimal places, but they instructed us to have only 1 decimal place. So I typed the number 1 and then I pressed the Enter key. And do you see how my chart has updated? Save that. Back to the instructions. Did we do everything? We added data labels, applied a number format. We're good. All right, we're changing worksheets in our workbook. We're going to go to the Places sheet. I'm going to make sure I've saved that. Let's go to Places. Lot of data here. We remember that end product that had some conditional formatting. It had a lot of formatting where each row was a different shade so that our eyeballs could, focus in really easily. And it definitely didn't have 2 different methods of coding. And this kind of thing happens all the time. So our first instruction, let me go back to the instructions. Our first instruction was to find all occurrence of BOS and replace with Boston. Again, I want you to make sure you're starting up at the top, cell A1. If you start in the middle, then Excel has to make sure, and you have to make sure, that it goes back to the top. It's going to start from this spot and search and replace from this point down. Now, don't you dare type every single replacement. Don't you dare do that, because the purpose of this class is that when you get that professional job, you're going to try to go home at 4:30. And if you are manually typing this stuff, your coworkers are going to be home, and as a professional, you don't earn overtime. So you're going to be on a salary job, and you're going to have to stay at work until it's done, because that's what the salary positions mean. So you got to be fast. You got to pick up these efficiencies and use the tools. Use those tools. So start at the top, because you're going to tell Excel to search and replace, find and select, replace. And it's going to start from this point, and it's going to search down. And find what? We want it to find BOS. And replace with what? Boston. Replace all. Now this is a great double check. Make sure it says 13, and you can even spot check it over here. If it says 1,000, then you might have typed something that you didn't mean to type. If it says there was only 1 replacement, then again, what it was finding, it means that you typed something that was not exactly BOS. Maybe there was some extra character or space or something that got in there. Should be 13. Click on OK. We've made that, so close. I think I've done something good. I'm going to save, and I'm going back to those instructions. Now, still in the Places tab, they want me to convert the data, all that data, to a table, and to assign the table a name of tourist attractions. Now, because of that red squiggly, you think you can't fully see. Let me ignore. See the underscore? We cannot have spaces. So oftentimes, instead of a hyphen, if you hold your Shift key down, that's how you get the underscore. So you have to look on your keyboard for that. And we're going to apply to this table the blue Table Style Medium 2. Well, a shortcut is that I know when I format this table, it will automatically convert it to a table. So I'm going to do that just to kind of go quickly. I do need to select my whole table. Do you remember the keyboard shortcuts? I'm going to use my arrow keys. If I also hold down my Shift key, then that will select as I use my arrow keys. If I also hold down my Control key, instead of moving one cell at a time, it will move to the end of the data. So Control, Shift, right arrow. Control, Shift, down arrow. Everything is selected. Scroll just to verify. On my Home tab, this is the Format as Table option, and they instructed us to go to this medium and to pick blue. Table Style Medium 2. So I'm going to click that. when I do, it's about to convert this to a table. It does recognize that I have headers, and I'm going to click on OK. Now we're not done yet. The default is that it has named this table Table 1, and we were instructed to change this name to tourist underscore attractions. Make sure you spell this with the proper capitalization, the S at the end of attractions, everything exactly right. And I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to save. If you make a mistake and you somehow named it incorrectly, the place to fix that is on the Formulas tab. And you have something called Name Manager, and you can click that and correct the name, edit the name. Okay? I think I showed you that in a previous video on one of the graders. We're still on the Places worksheet. Let's see, we saved. And let's move on to instruction 15. On the Places sheet, freeze the very top row. Well, we know how to do that, so let's do that. View and freeze panes, freeze top row. And you can see the line that went across here indicating it's frozen, and also as I scroll I can see that my labels stay at the top. Very nice. Save. Back to instructions. Step 16. Still on the Places worksheet, we sort the data by city in alphabetical order. That just means A to Z. And then within the city, we're going to sort by the sightseeing locations. And again, A to Z, alphabetical order. Okay, so by city and then by sightseeing location. So I go to Excel. Now, there's many ways to sort, but I need to do two sorts at the same time. So on my Home tab, I'm clicked anywhere in this table, and here's my sort and filter. And I need to do a custom sort. And it said to sort first by city, A to Z, which is alphabetical, and then by sightseeing location. Some of it is learning to speak in the same way that you would implement those spoken actions. You know, their instructions can be long, so in your mind you want to say, okay, what am I trying to do? Trying to sort by city, then by sightseeing location. Okay. Oh, look at that. And look at the amount of information that we got just by sorting. I mean, all of a sudden, we can see all the cities grouped in all of the sightseeing locations. Again, we could sort by fee. We could sort by time needed. We could sort only by sightseeing location if we wanted, just to get an A to Z list, right? All of that is information that we're getting from the data. I like that. Let's save. Let's go back to our instructions. We completed step 16. On to 17, still on the Places worksheet. We're going to add a total row to display the average of the time needed for our sightseeing locations. Then we're going to apply a number format with 0 decimal places to that total. Okay, now it says total, but they asked us, they said add a total row, so that's what they mean by total, to display the average. We got to make sure that we display the average with 0 decimal places. Okay, I like to scroll to the bottom so that I can see, because I know this is where it's going to come out. I'm going to click anywhere in this time needed row. There's many ways to do this. My personal preference is I right click in this row, I go to Table and Totals Row. Now it added a total, but don't be too fast here. If I click on that, this may look a little unfamiliar, but it does not say average. I think we can agree on that. We needed this to say something about averaging. And this is very special because this is a table, so we wouldn't use the average function. Instead, notice I have a drop-down box and I need to click average. Wow! Well, an average is calculated by adding up all of the values and dividing by the number of values that you added up. So it's not an even number. It's something that has to be formatted. But you're very accustomed to formatting numbers. So, for example, maybe we just decrease the number, oops, here it is, decrease the number of decimals. We have that cell selected. What is selected will be affected. How about that? 2 places after the decimal. Let's just confirm that that's what, oh, I'm sorry, why do I say 2? 0 places after the decimal. I'm sorry. Let's get rid of that. No places after that. I would have gotten us, we would have lost a point because I did not read the instructions. And I've done this multiple times, so you can understand it's human, and that's why I give you that opportunity to repeatedly upload those assignments until the due date. Let's save that. And another thing, always double check those instructions. I learned a great tip from one of my students who was in the military, and very precise, very accurate. I love, if you're from the military, you have got some great training. What she did is every time she would finish an instruction, she would put a check mark out here next to it. But as she went through the instructions, she would underline key things. So she would say places worksheet, for example, and that would be underlined. And then add total row, and that would be underlined. And when she finished that part, she would put an X through that part. I mean, just very detailed, but let me tell you something, folks, 100% every time, never missed, because great attention to detail. So wonderful. Okay, so can we put an X through each part? I think we're good. On to step 18. Still on the Places worksheet, select the values in the time needed column. So we're going to select all those values, and we're going to apply conditional formatting to highlight cells containing values greater than 60 with light red fill. Okay, so let's go back to Excel. Time needed column, here it is. I don't want this total row. I only want the values themselves, so not the formulas and not the label. I'm going to start down here, press and drag, or you can use any of your keyboard shortcuts. The key is to keep that mouse held down until you're ready to release. So I've selected all. I'm on the Home tab. Conditional formatting. This just, I love this. It makes information pop. Highlight cells, and let's see, what was our instruction again? We, was it greater than, containing values greater than, simply greater than, not greater than or equal to, simply greater than. And it says greater than what? They told us 60. See, it's already changing over here. And they're accepting this default option, which is light red with a light red fill with dark red text. And that makes it, anything that's greater than 60 just jumps out. And don't you want to know that if it's going to take you more than an hour to visit a sightseeing location, isn't that great information? Click OK. At a glance, you go zoop, that's more than an hour. I want one that's not in red. I want to be really quick. Or I'm in for a big leisurely day of sightseeing, so something that takes more than an hour is perfect. Boom, done. Save. Did we save? Save. Back to instructions. Did we do all of that? Time needed, format, greater than 60. Excellent. Still on the Places worksheet, apply a filter to display only fees that are less than or equal to $10. So maybe I want to see what's going to take a real long time, but I don't even want to think about it. I don't even want to consider it if the fees are more than $10. So I only want to see those things that are less than or equal to $10. Excellent, great information. Back to Excel. I'm going to deselect. I'm just going to click over here, and we're looking at fees. Click on that. And notice I mean, I could look for things that are exactly by checking something that's in the list. But right here, number filters. And our instructions were less than or equal to, less than or equal to 10, $10. And you can see I could add more conditions if I needed to. Click OK. Oh, watch your rows. Watch the rows here as I do. There's the filter. Do you see row 5 is no longer displayed? Row 17 is, it's still there. It was not deleted. It just compressed it. It made it invisible. Look at the information we have garnered from this. We know if something's going to take a long time, but we also know everything that we see now in this list is $10 or less. So I'm not going to accidentally give you the wrong, send you to a site and they charge $200 to, I'm teasing, but you get the idea. Save. Back to instructions. On to step 20, folks. Look at us. We are rocking and rolling. On the cities worksheet, oh, we changed worksheet. So we were on places. We're going to go to cities. Let's just do that right away. Cities. Ooh, lots of stuff going on with cities here. Okay. On the cities worksheet, click cell F4 and enter a formula that subtracts the departure date, which is B1, from the return date, which is B2. Now, keep this in mind. We're subtracting B1 from B2. So it's actually B2 minus B1, right? Then we're going to take that and multiply the results by the rental car value. Okay, well, let's think about this. I'm going to open what I like to call my virtual whiteboard. See this box right here? Okay. Let's just think through this before we actually start typing it in. It's no big deal, but we just want to think about it for a moment. They told us to subtract B1 from B2. Now you can subtract. I know that you know how to do that. That's no big deal. How do you tell Excel turn on the calculator? Here's the phrase, all formulas start with an equal sign. But just remember that means Excel is going to do the work. Not you. You don't have to do the work. Excel's going to do the work. It says subtract B1 from B2, which mathematically means that we start with B2 and then from it we subtract B1. Next, we multiply the results by the rental car value. So, and it says that that's in F3. And multiply, what's our symbol? The asterisk times F3. Is that right? We're thinking, Well, let's think about what we're trying to do by looking at the worksheet. What values are in B1 and B2? These are date values. So when I subtract B1, which was the departure date, from the return date. You can kind of look at it there, right? Should I count the end dates? I say 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That's like what, 5 days? So I would take those 5 days and I would multiply that. What was I multiplying that by? F3. Where is F3? Here's F3 by $35, right? So I'm going to say 3 times 35. Or I'm sorry, 5. I'm sorry. See, I cannot remember what I just come up with. 5 times 35. That number times 35. But is that what's actually going to happen? Did you ever learn this? PEMDAS. Many people remember this as please, well, let me do it this way. Please excuse, do you know this one? My dear, or do you just remember PEMDAS, Aunt Sally? The reason people remember this phrase is to remember PEMDAS, because the P says whatever is going to happen first is what is in parentheses. Parentheses. What's going to happen next? Anything that is an exponent. right? Exponent is like we have x and we're going to raise it to the y power, or we're going to say 3 squared. That's an exponent. And that little symbol, which is shift and your number 6 key, is a caret symbol. That's how Excel understands exponents. But we're not doing that now, so let's stay focused. My is for M, which means multiply. Multiplication is kin with division. And then last, down towards the bottom, A is for addition, which is kin to S, which is subtraction. So the very first thing that's going to happen in our equation here is we said what we wanted to have happen was first it would subtract the dates to get that number, and then it would multiply it by the rental car rate per day. But is that what's going to happen? Because our order of operations says that multiplication is going to happen first. Folks, let me give you a hint. If you get confused by what's going to happen first and what's going to happen second, use parentheses to make sure that what you want to have happen first is going to happen first. I will tell you another benefit. You may not be the only person using this worksheet, but even if you are, a year from today, it's sometimes hard to remember what you were trying to do. So by adding parentheses into this, it's not only more clear to the computer and will result in an accurate result, but it's also more clear to you what you're trying to do. Subtract those dates and then multiply by the rental car. Okay, so let's do that. What cell are we entering that into? F4. Let's go back to F4. F4, here's our cell F4. And when we want Excel to do the math, we must begin with an equal sign. We know that we're going to subtract those two dates and we need that to happen first. So I'm going to begin with an opening parenthesis. It said we're going to take the return date, which is B2, minus the date that we departed from, B1. If you got this wrong, you just get a negative number and you just need to go back and turn it around, right? Hopefully. I say that. I haven't tested that. Dates are kind of funny that way. Okay, so I've got the number of days, and now I need to multiply by F3. Enter whenever we're finished. Hey, here's the reasonable check. Does that look reasonable? Well, if you took those parentheses out, you're going to have some colossal date, and you don't want that. This is a reasonable number. That looks accurate. Save. We did all parts of step 20. Excellent. Let's move on to 21. On the cities worksheet, click in cell E13. Let's just go there. E13. E13. Shuttle or rental. Now let's just look at this before we even read the instructions. Shuttle or rental. Well, it says no rental car. Yes, rental car. Yes, rental car. No rental car. Well, if I don't have a rental car, what this column is trying to say is then I'm going to have to take the shuttle. And if I'm going to get reimbursed for this, or if I'm going to pay my employee for this, this is a cost, well, how much is that going to be? Well, in the event that this is no rental car, I'm going to have to pay the shuttle, so that's going to be $50. But if I get a rental car, then it's $35, right? And on. We go through looking at yes and no's. And these things could change over time. Maybe, a month from now, maybe Boston, they get a rental car. Maybe Miami, we don't give rental cars anymore. And I want this shuttle or rental column to be very smart and very dynamic. I do not want to have to keep typing 50, 35, 50, 35, 50. Oh, that changed. Let me make sure I go back and I changed this. And if I change this, I have to remember, oh, folks, you're going to be going home at midnight. Everybody else going to be gone at 4:30. You don't want to do that. And you're going to make mistakes. The way to be fast and accurate is to let Excel make that fill that value in for you. Excel can look at that and say, if this says no rental car, then let's use the shuttle price. If it says yes rental car, then put the rental car price in. Let's read the instructions. Oops, what step are we on? 21. We've clicked in cell E13 and we've looked at the spreadsheet. And it says that depending on the city, you're going to take either the shuttle or to and from the airport, or you're going to rent a car. We saw that. We're going to use the if function. Now you might be scared already, but just stop, because Excel is going to help you with this if function. And it's going to compare to see if that yes or no value for rental car, and then if it says no, it's going to display the value of the rental car in cell F2. If not, it's got to display the value of the shuttle, right? Now, the rest of this simply says copy the function. But when we copy it, it wants to make sure that we don't copy the formatting, because if we do copy the formatting, it's going to remove the border at the very end, and your spreadsheet's going to start to look messy. It's going to look, this part was, you're going to say, oh, I didn't see that, it looked so good, and then it got messed up. So we're going to make sure that we only copy the formula, not the formatting. One step at a time. Our most pressing concern is that we need to use the if function to decide if the person gets a rental car or not. Let's go back to the spreadsheet. I'm in my appropriate cell E13, and yes, all math starts with an equal sign. But before I even do that, I'm going to look up here on the formula bar and I'm going to look for some help. And this little scripty F, that means function, and it told us to use the if function. This is how I get help from Excel. Now, the first thing says type a brief description of what you want to do and then click go. I'm going to delete that. And what do I want? I want to use the if function and just type if. And you can hit enter or click go. Down below, Excel says, here are the functions that I think are most likely to help you. And of course, it found the if function straight away. As you click the different functions, and of course we're interested in the if function, so I'm going to click it. It tells you what it does. It checks whether a condition is met. Rental car? Yes or no, that's the condition. And it returns one value if the condition was met. Rental car? Yes, return the rental car rate. Rental car false, return the shuttle rate. Okay, see where we're going? Double click if. You get more help. Now, the very first thing that this if function needs is what they're calling a logical test. That used to scare me. If it scares you, it really did me. I promise you, it really did. What is a logical test? Logical simply means yes or no, on or off, 0 or 1. It just simply means yes or no, true or false in this case. Logical test, if any value or expression that can be evaluated to true or false. Well, expression means equation, right? But simple, something simple equation. Here's the equation. Does rental car equal no? That's an equation. Okay. Well, I'm not really saying rental car. I'm really saying, does this cell value, does C13 equal no? Click on that. See how it puts C13? Equal. Now, if I am using a text value, I have to put it inside of quotes. That's the rules. Remember my air quotes from a previous video? He said no. She said no. Rental car, air quotes, no. So you have to put the quotes in there. I know that this is the type of thing that they want because it's already giving me the answer. Okay, then let's move on. That's our logical test. Does C13 equal no? True. Well, what do we want to have happen if that answer is true? Well, no rental car means that we have to get the shuttle. So if it's true, then in this cell, I want to display the shuttle amount. Well, what if that wasn't true? Well, if that wasn't true, then it must be false. And if it's false, then the rental car rate. Now, you might be saying, I would rather check to see if the answer is yes. Does C13 equal yes? You could certainly do that. You could certainly do that. If you did, your true response and your false response would just be opposite, right? Okay, let's think through this. If C13 equals no, then display the shuttle rate. If C13 does not equal no, if it's anything else, then display the rental car rate. That would be, oh, do I have this backwards? I clicked OK. Here's why I clicked OK. Rental car, no. I want to make sure that, yeah, the shuttle is more expensive, is $50. Look up at the, if you made a mistake, if you need to go back, make sure that cell is selected and just click that scripty f of x again, and it'll bring it right back up and you can make any changes. We have our logical test, what to do if it's true, what to do if it's false. Okay, now the next step in our instructions says that here, copy the function to cell 13, or from cell 13 all the way down. Remember, we said that that's what we were going to do. Well, I'm just going to copy it once because I want to, or now maybe a couple times, I want you to see what's going to happen. Now let's use our common sense test here. Isn't this supposed to display either 50 or 35? I mean, they either get a rental car or else the shuttle, and that is messed up. 175, zero. Where'd zero come from? Where'd 175 come from? Well, remember that Excel power users click down here, but they look up here. And what they're looking for is that when you click 175, I see that it's checking C14. That's fantastic. C14 says yes, they get a rental car. But instead, when that answer is true, it's returning F3, and F3 is $35. But it's not true because the answer is no. So instead, it's returning F4. What? Why isn't it talking about F2 and F3 like it was in my original formula, F2 and F3? Because each time I copied that formula, these are relative references, and we loved it when it said, look at C13, but when I copied the formula, look at C14, look at C15. We said, that's great, but don't you know that you were supposed to stay F2 and F3? Don't you know? No, it didn't know. Undo. Might even undo again. Yeah, I undo again because sometimes there's a formatting, like something, the column gets a little too big and that'll mess me up. So redo. Okay, so here's my formula, and I need to fix this. I do want cell C13 to change relatively as I copy it, but I absolutely want my F3, my F2 and my F3 cells, I absolutely want them to stay F2 and F3. You see what I did? Those dollar signs lock the formula in place. Now, I didn't correct the bad formulas. I corrected the formula that was correct so that it will stay correct. Now, I would be tempted to copy this formula, but they told us to copy it in a special way. Make sure that that cell is selected. Copy is regular. Now, you just hit the copy. That's what I mean by regular. Now select the cells that you're going to paste into. Remember, the paste button had two pieces. The bottom part is options. Man, there's a lot of ways to paste. The one that we're looking at has to do with formulas, and formulas are always indicated by that scripty F. Click on that. Now, what did it do? Well, in order to see, I'm going to click away. I'm actually going to scroll up and I'm going to click away. And these little dots drive me nuts. They're called marching ants. Hit the escape key on your keyboard. This looks, from the common sense check test, this looks better. 50, 35, 35, 50, 35, 50. 50s always go with no. That's correct. 35s always go with yes. That's correct. When I click on the actual cell, I see the formula. It is checking cell C15, and it is getting, if that value is no, if that answer is true, it gets F2. If that answer is false, it gets F3. Excellent. Save. Wonderful work. Wonderful. Back to our instructions. We're moving on. Double check. Make sure you have all of that. Go on to step 22. On step 22, still on the cities worksheet, we're now going to look at cell F13. And it says the lodging is based on a multiplier by the city type. Some cities are more expensive than others. So we're going to use this time a VLOOKUP function. Well, we know how to get help with functions. That looks up the city type and then compares it and returns a percentage. Okay, I'm skipping the code because I don't want to get bogged down in the cells and that kind of thing. Let's push back from the tree, look at the forest. F13, isn't that what they want us to look at? This is lodging. Okay, well, as I look at what I've got to work with here, I've got a base lodging and a total base lodging here, some values. It looks like this might be what I pay somebody just, by default. I'm going to give you $125 a night. For the number of days, it looks like I'm going to give you $625. That's just by default. But not all cities are the same. The cost of living, COL, in some cities is higher or lower. Maybe 95% of that, so it's a little bit less. Or maybe it's 110%, so we're going to give you 10% more than regular. Or 125%, so 25% more. So these cities are classified different. You're going to get more money or less money depending on the city. Okay, so Boston is a class 3 city. We've said that's number 3. And with nothing but manual processes, the way that we would fill out this form is we would say this is a number 3 city, and according to my chart, number 3s get 125% of this base. And we would go to our adding machine and we would type in 125% times, I think, the 625. And then we would type it over here. And that'd be accurate. It'd be fine. If we were using paper and pencil, that's how we do it. And we'd be going home about midnight every night. Hopefully midnight. Because we sure would not be going home at 4:30 because it's going to take us forever. Especially what if the boss says this city's not a 3 anymore, this city's a 4. And they get a rental car now. What if all these things start changing and you're going to have to remember and you're going to have to make all those manual updates? And we don't want to do that. We've got a computer and we want Excel to do it, and it can do it, and you can make it do it because you know how. And this is how you learn how. You're just going to walk through it. Okay, you're just going to walk through it. We're going to use the VLOOKUP function that looks up that city type and compares it to that table, the city call table, and returns that percentage. Once you have that percentage, you're going to multiply and do some more stuff. But that's too much for me to think about, so I'm just going to concentrate on the first part, which is I need it to return that percentage. If I can accomplish that, everything else is gravy. Okay? Let's go back over. Cell F13. It says I need to use a VLOOKUP. That's the key. Well, I need help. This is how I get help. Well, brief description of what do you want to do? I don't know. VLOOKUP is what it said. VLOOKUP. Enter or click go. Well, it looks like there's a lot of different lookup stuff, but VLOOKUP is the first one selected, and it says it looks up a value in the leftmost column of a table. Here's a table. Here's a leftmost column. and then it returns a value in the same row from a column you specify. By default, the table must be sorted in ascending order. It is. That's great. Okay, let's click OK because that's the one we want. Or you can double click that particular value. We get some more help. The first thing I want you to notice is that 3 of these 4 items that we're being prompted for are in bold. If they are in bold, we must provide an answer. If it's not bold, we can skip it. When we skip it, Excel will make some assumptions, and we'll see that, okay? But just kind of keep that in mind. Well, the first question is the lookup value. Which value am I going to look up? That's down here. It's going to explain. The lookup value is the value to be found in the first column of the table and can be a value, a reference, or a text string. Well, what value do I want to look up? I want to look up this. Whatever is here, even if it changes, that's the value I want to look up. Well, where do you want to look it up? That's table array, and it tells us that. Table array is a table of whatever, and in which the data is retrieved. Well, this is where it's going to be retrieved. So I'm going to select, I think I need to include the labels, or do I? No, I'm just going to include the data. Okay, so I've clicked here, table array, and I've got A7 through B10. Now, I know from past experience, and that being the last formula that we created, that we're going to copy this formula. So let's be a little smart here as we think through this. B13 is what I'm going to look up, but when I copy it, it's going to be okay if that changes to B14, B15. But what about this table? I'm going to need that to stay on these values. I absolutely need that table to remain fixed on those cells. So I've got to put my dollar signs, my absolute references in. Thinking ahead because I'm going to copy that formula. Next final required value is the column index. The column index, it says, is the number of the column in the table from which the matching value should be returned. So if I come up here and say, this is the value I wanted, number 3, which column has the value? I mean, potentially this table could be quite large, have many columns. Well, it also says the first column is column 1. Well, I don't need that value. I already have that value. I need column 2. Look, it's already telling me the answer. This is awesome. 1.25 is the same as 125%. So I already can see that what is Excel going to do? It's going to look over here and it's going to get number 3 because that's what we told it. And it's going to go to our table because that's what we told it. And it's going to find number 3 and it's going to return whatever value is in column 2, which is 125%. Perfect. Awesome. Now, yeah, that is a number 2 and that one's okay. Now, we don't have to fill in this value, but what is this talking about? Range lookup. It says it's logical. Remember, logical is true false, right? You're going to have a logical test. That means you're going to have a true false test. Range lookup is a logical value to find the closest match in the first column. So if we put in true, and it says it must be sorted, it's going to find the closest match, not the exact match, but the closest match. That can be handy sometimes, but that's a little bit more advanced. We are looking exactly for the number 3. So to find an exact match, we could type in false there, but we're just going to skip it because we don't have to put anything in there right now. Now, as you continue to learn and grow, which you do by practice, okay, then you may find that your formula is not returning the value that you would expect. So you might have to come back in and set this to true or set this to false to see if that changes the outcome. That's how you learn. That's how you learn. We've all been there. Anybody who's been using Excel, you make a lot of formulas that don't work and you fix them. So troubleshooting is part of the process. Click OK. 125. Now, we're not done yet, because all we've gotten it to do is to, not all, this is a great thing though. We've said look at number 3 and return that. Now, just to test it, what if this changed to a number 1 city? Yay! Our formula would return the associated value. Undo. Right? I always undo until I get back. Nope. Okay, redo. So our formula is working, but there was more to it. It said that we were going to use that VLOOKUP, and then, there's the key word, then, and then we were going to multiply the result of that lookup function by the total base lodging, which is in cell B5. Okay, let's go back. B5 is the total base lodging. Well, we've already done the hard part, folks. We've gotten it to return this percentage using the VLOOKUP. All we have to do is go to our formula bar, click at the end, multiply times B5. I could type B5 if I wanted and hit enter. Folks, this is cool. Look at what you have accomplished. You have said, based on the city, they either get a rental car or don't. And our shuttle, in this shuttle or rental column, we are dynamically figuring that out. We didn't test that. You want to test? Well, we tested it when we copied it, but if I change this to yes, did you see that change? Undo. Yeah, undo again. Nope, too much. Redo. Okay. So this is so dynamic. If that rental car changes, my shuttle or rental will change. If my city type changes, my lodging changes. Instead of getting $625, I got that times 125%, which is 1.25. So I get, for this particular city, I get $781.25. Now, we need to fill in the rest of this table, but I don't want to screw up my formatting. So remember, I've got this cell selected. Copy. Select the cells where you wish to paste. Remember, paste has two parts, and the bottom part of that button has many options, and we've been exploring this formula one. Uh-oh. Before I even click on it, do you see the problem? Uh-oh. What's the problem? As I copy this formula down, oops, I'm sorry, escape, even one cell down, I felt good about VLOOKUP, but what's going to happen to the B5? It went down and selected B6, and Excel said, how do I multiply 110% times the word COL? I don't know what to do with that. So it displayed val, which means a value error. And then I started to get some really bizarre errors. So I need to fix this, because I absolutely need B5 to absolutely stay with B5. See how I'm fixing the original formula? Save. Make sure you have that cell selected now that it's corrected, and copy. Select where you're going to paste. Go back to your paste button. Paste only the formulas, not the formatting. Much better. Remember what the pros do. They click in these cells, but they're not looking down at the cell. They're looking up here. They're giving it a common sense check. Does that look right? Well, Miami is a number 2 city, about 110% of base. I would agree that it's less than 781. So, even if you don't have the math, you could pull out your adding machine and just double check your formulas, because the formula is going to do all the work for you. Pat yourself on the back, folks. Pat yourself. You deserve it. You deserve it. Save. You definitely want to save that. Do you see how important those formulas are to people who work in Excel? They could probably fill back in this city type and this base lodging pretty quickly. But what's much harder to do is to go through and rebuild all these formulas. But you can do it because it just takes a little practice. And then you start saying, hey, I think I could do that with a formula. Let me play with that and see if I can get it right. And you feel so good when you do. Did we do all parts of this? Okay, I think we did. Folks, look, we're getting close to the bottom of the page. On the cities worksheet, click cell H13. What is cell H13? Oh, looks like we're going to total. Now let's just think about this. If you want to know the total cost, aren't you going to sum up the airfare that you've worked so hard to, calculate your shuttle or rental, your lodging, your meals? Probably so, but let's just read the directions to be sure. On the cities worksheet, click in cell H13 and enter the function that calculates the total cost for the first city, including airfare, shuttle, rental, lodging, meals. Copy the function in the cell using what we have been doing to make sure that we copy only the function and not the formatting. Breathe a sigh of relief because you know how to do this. Click in cell H13. Auto sum. Yay! Double check, make sure it's adding what it's supposed to. When it's good, hit enter. That looks about right. Passes the common sense check. Select it. Copy. Select those cells where you're going to paste. Use the bottom part of the button and the formulas. We're pasting only the formulas, not the formatting. Do that pro thing where you click around, but instead of looking down here, you're looking up here. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's right. Save. Woohoo! Look at this progress. Number 24. On the cities worksheet, select the range E14 through H18 and apply the comma style with 0 decimal places. Pay close attention to that. Bold. Oops. Let me bold that. Let me make that red. Because it did not say pick everything. It said E14 through H18. E14 through H18. We're skipping this first row. Do you see how the first row is already a little different? It's got that dollar sign, and that is so much cleaner to read than having dollar signs littered everywhere on the page. That's why we're doing this. Now it did say E, right? I say that. It did say E. E14 through Oh, I'm sorry, I was wondering if that was an error. E14 through H18. And it said to use the comma style, so I'm clicking that. And it said no decimal places. So decrease, decrease, no decimal places. So far so good. Save. Let's go back. And then it said select that first row that we skipped, E13 through H13, and apply the accounting number format with 0 decimal places. Well, that was E13 through H13, and it said the accounting style, which is where this dollar sign is, but no decimal places. Decrease, decrease. So no decimal places, dollar signs on this very top row, a dollar sign that is not next to the number but over to the left. Save. Rock and roll. We're moving on to the last little piece of a page, step number 25. On the cities worksheet in cell, look at this closely, folks, I2. You know there's no such cell as 12. So that first one has to be a letter. It has to be I. In the cities worksheet cell I2, enter a function that will calculate the average total cost per city. Okay, let's just stop there. Cell I2 right here. Average. How do we calculate the average? Well, quick and easy. We can go up here, average, and it said total cost per city, not whatever that is. Well, total cost, and here's the cities down here. Enter. That looks reasonable. That looks to be about the average, wouldn't you say? Save. Not done yet. In cell I3, enter a function that will identify the lowest total cost. Okay? Cell I3 is selected. Lowest total cost. Wouldn't that be the same as the minimum? Well, not the minimum of that, but the minimum total cost. How cool is this? That at a quick glance, Excel is telling you, even as these values may change over time, Excel will always tell you what is the lowest package that you have. Somebody comes up to you and they say, look, I don't have a lot of money. I want to travel. What's the lowest price thing that you have? Well, the lowest price that I have is $1,132, and that's to San Antonio. But if things change, that will update for you. Back to instructions. In cell I4, enter a function that will return the highest price package. Well, ma'am or sir, if you want our highest price package, it's the premium deluxe deal. Max. Not of that, but the max total cost. That would be our $1,814 package, because Washington, D.C. is a Tier 4 city, and we know the airfare and the shuttle and the lodging, look at that, $875, so 140% of the base. But Excel is doing all of this. If we decide that Tier 4 cities are now 150%, Excel will automatically update this, and you'll have all that, and you won't have to work late. Won't that be awesome? Save. I think that's that instruction. Okay. Now, we're going to group. When you group worksheets, you select the first one, and you hold your Shift key down, and you only have to click the very last one. The Shift key means from the start to the end. And see how they're grouped? The scary thing about grouping is anything that you change on the worksheet at this point applies to all worksheets. That can be very handy if I had a worksheet for every student in the class and I wanted to change a formula, for example. I could group all those tabs and make the change one time, and it would be on all of them. But it's bad if I forget that I have them grouped and I continue to work and make other changes. Then it would make those changes on all the worksheets that I have grouped. So be careful. I have them grouped. I did that. Group the 3 worksheets. Create a footer, and in the footer I'm going to have Exploring Series on the left. I'm going to have the Sheet tab in the center and the file name on the right side. All right, let's do that. They're grouped. Page layout. I like to click on this little thing here. Headers and footers, got lots of tabs, header, footer. Custom footer. Turn my instructions here so I can get it exactly right. And on the left, I'm going to type Exploring Series. In the center, I am going to put the Sheet tab. On the right, I am going to put the file. Okay. I could preview if I wanted just to make sure, but that looks good. I'm going to click OK. Now, what did I tell you was the most important thing? Ungroup. If you keep working, you might mess up because they're still grouped and it will change all of them. So click on any one of the tabs to ungroup. Save. Go back to the instructions. On the Cities worksheet, change it to Landscape Orientation. Select a 1-inch top margin and center the worksheet horizontally on the page. Okay. Cities. Go to Page Layout to our Orientation. Landscape. I need to adjust the margins, but I need to be very precise. So I'm just going to go back here and I'm going to make sure I'm on my margins tab. Multiple, you could do custom, many ways to do things, right? I'm on the margins tab. It said that the top margin needed to be 1. It said the bottom margin needed to be 1. And it also said I need to center horizontally on the page. Okay. Save. How are we doing? How are we doing, folks? You're troopers. You are hanging in there because I think, do we need a drum roll? I think we're ready to submit. Let's do it. I always just have to save, 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 and I close, always close. And let's go back. Now, I'm going to be upset if my 100% drops down. I just want y'all to know that. It might make me cry. So let's go back. Oh, I've already got it opened over here. And we've already downloaded. So I'm going to go over here and choose File. And there's my worksheet. And I'm going to click on Open and Upload. Success. Submit. Close. I love it when that close button works. It does not always work for me. Now, this may not be true anymore. We need to give it just a second to grade. Oh, okay. My attempts just changed to 12. So I'm going to click on these 3 dots, View Submission. Oh, I still have 100%, so that's a good thing. Woohoo! This is good. Hopefully, my fingers are crossed. See, look at all my attempts as I'm playing around trying to find out. Oh no, it said 100% because it's showing my highest score. But look at that, I actually have a 95.9. What happened? Something went wrong. Well, let's just see. Now, okay, first I do want to, let me go back for this reminder. Yeah, remember I used 40% and remember I used 16. And that was step 3 and step 9. And I've got perfect points on step 3. I've got perfect points on step 9. So let's see, where did I make an error? Uh-oh, step 21. Insert an if function that compares. Oh, something's wrong with my if function. What's wrong with my if function? In the cell. Well, there's a little difference, but I would not think enough. Okay, well, let's just look at that. Oh, I bet this is the real problem. In these cells, the formula was not set. (14, 15, and 17) of cities. The formula result value was not set to 175. Let's go back in for just a second. I don't think my formula is that wrong. So let's just see if we have some kind of little anomaly. E14. This is how you do it, folks. Was not set to 175. What? In the cells E14, 15, and 17. Strangely not 16. 16 seems to be fine. Was not set to 175. Help me understand why that was not set to 175. It shouldn't be 175. You know, sometimes when you get something wrong earlier in the spreadsheet, it kind of has a trickle-down approach. So let's look at E14 in the cities sheet, and I'll tell you what it's doing there. Let me make this bigger for you. I'm going to just copy and paste this text, in essence, on my whiteboard. Can you see it? This is what it's saying. In cell E14 of our cities worksheet. Well, here's the cities worksheet. Here's cell E14. Here's my formula. I'm going to Control C. I've just copied that. And I'm going to paste it. and it says the formula was not correct, and it's showing me here's if, and look at, let me just copy just this part so you can see it side by side. It is different, isn't it? Both of us have C14. We've both set it equal to no. No spaces there. Do I have a space in mine? Nope, no space. Okay, but I have dollar signs in front of the column as well as in front of the row. Now, the answer is still correct, and technically it's still accurate. My personal practice, here's what's going on. This absolute symbol can indicate that only the row should be absolute. Sometimes you'll see only the column should be absolute. In my formula, I chose to lock the column and also lock the row. So absolutely keep the column the same and absolutely keep the row the same. It's technically not wrong. They just did a little bit of a shorthand to say it's really only the row that's changing, so that's the only thing that I need to lock. It's flagging that there's an error there. There's something else I want to show you. Let me pull back up the one that I did earlier, and it was marked as perfect. Okay, and let me go to my cities tab and let me show you cell E14. Now, this is the file that scored 100%. So I actually have that equation exactly the same. So this is not the cause of the error. I'm not sure what is causing the error. It seems like something is amiss, but do you see this is a different worksheet and the step is exactly the same. So somehow there is something a little bit not right in this. Now, I'm not even saying that this grader is messed up. I'm not saying that because I've scored 100%. What has probably happened is there is something that grader is picking up on that it maybe is part of this instruction that is ever so slightly off. It could even be in an instruction prior to that with this B1 and B2. Remember, as I was talking, I was showing and demonstrating different things. Maybe I need to look at my formula in cell F4. Here's the perfect one. And in F4, because remember it said something about it should be set to 175. Well, here's that formula, and that looks right to me. B2 minus B1 times F3. Well, if I go back to my work, and this is how you do it, folks. It's a troubleshooting process. Did I do it correctly? B2 minus B1 times B3? I think I did. So I'm not sure what it's picking up on. I'm really not, and I'm so sorry about that. I haven't even, what I could do. Okay, we could even go ahead and do this. I could change and take that. I don't think it's going to make a difference. Let me copy that formula. Oops, hello. And I'm trying to select, and let me paste the formula only. I'm going to submit it one more time just to see. And I hate that because I definitely, no, do not save. I definitely don't want for us to leave with anything less than 100. Obviously, my goal was to demonstrate that 100%, and here I am down at 95. Were there other errors? I didn't even look further. Before we submit, let's just look. Was there any other error that I can perhaps quickly overlook or quickly correct? Whoops. Total cost. Looks like I have a problem in cell H13. Well, I'd have to open that back up. Copy the function. What was wrong with H13? I don't want this video to run too long. My computer won't be able to process it. But let's see. It even has issues with my Well, and I guess it would if that's based on H13. Well, I can't imagine what is wrong with the sum. And I can also tell you that really I accomplished that the exact same way in the spreadsheet that I got 100%. So um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why I'm getting the red flags on that. And I am so sorry. I really am. My goal was to show you how to make 100%. I wish I was a perfect person. Um, I will tell you that if I sit here and try to troubleshoot this, I will end up having some troubles in processing this video. So the one thing I'm going to show you is this perfect worksheet that I did do earlier. Maybe, I tell you something else I noticed. One of a student was telling me they were having a problem, and so I kept experimenting with things, and I submitted a worksheet 18 times, and or a Word document into the grader 18 times, and it could never figure it out after that, and it kept giving me these weird scores. So I do think it can be problematic sometimes if you submit a few too many. Here in obviously I'm just summing D13 through G13. Here again, average, min, max, can't imagine what's wrong. Again, summing, it is D13, yeah, D14. So cannot imagine. I can tell you that, see in here, that's the same. And then, yeah, the B5. So I put the false in. I don't know if that we could try that. Um, but other than, okay, I'm going to try that one thing. I'd be interested to see if I submitted this again. For the VLOOKUP, the value I skipped, stop that. Oh, it's confused because now I'm multiplying. The value I skipped was putting false. Okay, do you see that after the number 2 I have a comma and now the word false? And it's even telling me here, false means exact match. So maybe, goodness, if that's it, let's just see. Come on now. I already copied, paste. Let's just see if that's the trick. The trickaroonie. Save, close. I promise this is going to be, I'm only going to try it this one more time to see if we can get the 100. So in this case, even though Excel says that value is optional, and even though we would get technically the correct value, maybe our grader wants us to fill in, that false. Now, I have not yet spoken about the quiz. Remember, this is a 2-part assignment, so when I come in here, your quiz, if you've submitted the grader even one time, the quiz is open to you, and it's going to ask you to look at that Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so let's click on that. I'm going to choose my file. Upload. Submit. So 13 times, but it's still showing the highest score, which is, of course, the way I grade. Let's look at the view submissions. Nope, I'm still at 95.9, so not sure what the problem is. We'll see if it's any different errors. But again, I don't want the videos getting too long. Well, the only errors, what I'm down here at 21. So the cities tab is definitely the one that it is upset with me about. Not sure what I did that triggered it. I really do not think there's a problem with this instruction in step 25, because calculating the average and all, is pretty straightforward. Some little something in there. Anyway, so I am sorry, but before we go, let's do this one last thing here. But you're definitely in the range of getting a badge, definitely in the pass-fail range of getting your full points. And what I want you to see, and I'm only going to look at one of these questions just to give you a little insight. You're going to come back, and then you're going to do the quiz. So here's the quiz. I'm going to click on that. Now, we're only going to look at question number 1. It says refer to the Sparklines. Okay, so in the worksheet that we just did, let's open that up. It wants us to refer to those Sparklines and determine, whoops, the Sparklines were on the DC tab. They were on up here. And what do those Sparklines do? They're showing us trends. They're showing us trends. And trend for what? Well, this Lincoln Memorial, World War II Memorial, Vietnam, all these memorials. And for each one, it's looking at the trend of visitors. Remember what we graphed? The trend of visitors. Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it flattening? What's going on? So the quiz is saying determine how many memorials. We have how many of these memorials? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Of these 6, how many memorials had the highest number of visitors in 2017? So your Sparklines are a very quick way to see. Now, didn't we tell the Sparkline to put a marker at the high point and to color that marker red? And where is that red? Is it at the beginning where the 2002 data was mapped? Is it somewhere in the middle where the 2007 or 2012 data was plotted? Or is it at the end, the high point, where the 2017 data was plotted? And so based on the number of those memorials that had their highest number of visitors, their best year was 2017, how many of those did you see? So you would answer that question and then you'd continue on. But here's my point. You're referring to your graph. Yes, you could look at the individual data, but do you really need to? Because it's just yelling the answer out, because you just look at your graph. You're getting this great information. You can give comparisons here, even sometimes when they're close comparisons, and you can hover and kind of see. But I can see drastic drops from one year. You see how the data just jumps out? So that's what this quiz is about. It's going to be turning that beautiful data that you transformed into information and using that to answer these questions. So I'm going to shut that down. I'm going to leave. I'm not even going to answer that one. And I think you have the information you need. I appreciate your time, folks. I appreciate all the hard work you're doing, and I hope you have learned a lot. And stay tuned, because next is PowerPoint, and you're going to love PowerPoint. Yay! But I hope this was a great deep dive learning experience to a business skill that is desired. Thank you, folks. We'll talk to you later. Goodbye.